Yes, we have like
so
8
we have
minutes.
enough time for the
Absolutely.
Q&A.
Okay.
We will let you know with this.
Yes. Okay. Good. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the session Women in Tag. I'm your host today. My name is Stefan de Vries, and I'll be hosting this wonderful panel from all around the world. And today's topic is Women in Tag, but actually a better title would be The Absence of Women in Tag. And why is there an absence? And what can we do to introduce women into tech or make sure that more women get involved in tech? And all these people here, all women, I'm very delighted, apart from one Mexican guest, Aleph. Usually I moderate panels with a lot of men, and I really don't like that, so I stopped doing this. So I'm very happy that the majority now of our guests are female. So this is how the future will look like. Let me introduce you. Here is Susana Balbo. She is a winemaker, so, and she's actually the first women winemaker of Argentina. Wonderful country. Everybody thinks that French wines are the best, but actually I can tell you a secret. Argentinian wines are much better. But don't tell that to the people here. And she's now in charge of W20, which is basically, can I call it a pressure group to make sure that female or gender issues are on the agenda of the G20. So Susanna, welcome. Next to Susanna is une Française, et je parlerai en français. Pardon, c'est Béatrice Click. She is
Béatrice Click
of the Force Ouvrière, which is a big union, very on the left, I may say. Très à gauche, hein, on peut le dire. Then next to her is Chiara Condi. She's the president and founder of Led by Her. And what she's doing and her foundation is doing is basically women who are traumatized by violent incidents in their lives, try to rebuild their lives by making them or turning them or teaching them how to become entrepreneurs. So that's a very noble organization. Then next to her is Aleph Molinari. He's the founder of the Fundación Pro Acceso in Mexico, and that's a foundation that tries to help let's say lower income classes to access all kinds of digital initiatives. Yeah, that's okay. So welcome, Aleph. Next to him is Emmanuelle Quiles. She's the CEO of Janssen Pharmaceuticals here in France. She's probably one of the few female CEOs in France, isn't she? Yeah. But at least we have some in France. I read yesterday an article that in Germany there's not a single stock company that's led by a woman. So the country is led by a woman, but there's no huge company with a female CEO. So France does better here than Germany. Welcome, Emmanuelle. And then next to her is, Tara Wheeler. She's the author of Women in Tech, and she has a huge experience in all kinds of tech companies. So she will discuss or talk to us, tell us how she made it into the male-dominated tech sector. So we have very little time. I would like to invite you to comment on this debate. You probably found this on your seats. It's an app which you can use to comment, to ask questions. You can also use the hashtag on Twitter, and the hashtag is @OECD3. If you ask a question on this app, then I will get it on my tablet and I can present it to the guests here. And at the end of this debate, there will be a short Q&A, about 8 minutes. So if you have questions, don't hesitate to ask them. So let's start with you, Susana. The first female winemaker in Argentina. How did you get there? What happened? What did you do to get there?
First of all, thank you for having me today and for inviting me to this wonderful panel. I became the first female winemaker, and it wasn't easy because to get there and to be successful, that means for me to work harder, to work more hours than males. In fact, many days I was seeing their cars crossing over in front of my winery, and I was still working. Meanwhile, they were coming home to join with their families. But for me, it was very important to show my talent, and to do that, I should work at half double of the time that male counterpart, and also I should pay a lot of personal price because I had less time to spare with my family, less time to spare for myself. However, it was the only way to become successful in male dominated field as a wine industry.
And nowadays there are more female winemakers, or are you still the only one in Argentina?
Well, there is more female winemakers. There is a few hundred, taking in count that across 34 years is not enough. However, it's very difficult to find them in the high position in the decision level, because when you see them, they live to have a child, to have a parent care, and that means for them, when they reintroduce in their work, they are much behind than their colleagues, and it's very hard for them to reach the high position. Only the high position is for women that owns their business, as me, I have my own entrepreneurship, or because they belong to the family founder of the company.
Beatriz, as a member of the union, do you recognize the difficulties that women have to get to the top of a lot of companies, or the story of Susanna coming to the top of well, very male-dominated companies? What's your experience on that?
Oui, alors évidemment.
Of course, there is this problem of the glass ceiling, and it's not just in Argentine winemaking that is true. You find this everywhere, and digital is not going to necessarily help with this. There are a number of advantages that this offers. It opens up new opportunities, but at the same time, there are some risks associated with high tech. I mean, if you take the example of remote work, well, in principle, that should make it possible to combine family life and work life at the same time. But if this also means that the women are going to be set aside and remain in their homes, then they won't be visible in the companies, and the glass ceiling will perhaps become even thicker, and they won't be able to advance their careers. And with digitalization, one, of course, understands that that is going to destroy certain jobs and create others, and according to certain studies, for example, there's an American study that suggests that some 45% of existing jobs will cease to exist in the near future. But very often these are jobs that are occupied by women, and which ones are going to be created? It's in sectors that are dominated by men. So there's enormous work to be done to make sure that women can exceed. But let me just correct something that you said. Yes, we do have a trade union in France that is very much to the left, but it's not mine. It's not Force Ouvrière.
Extreme left, but it's a different debate, which I'll be happy to host, but another time. Chiara, your foundation is doing something very interesting. Of course, women, they already have difficulties accessing top-level jobs in general, but you are actually taking care of a group of women that are even more, well, how would I say it, in a difficult position. You teach women who are victims of violence to become an entrepreneur. Where did you get this idea, and how does it work exactly, Chiara?
Well, so there are different elements to it. I would start with the fact that creating Glad by Her was a militant act, because it was saying that every woman should have the right to be and become the person that she wants to be and have the choice in her life. It's not that entrepreneurship is the right choice, but if one wants to become an entrepreneur, one should have the path in order to do so. And so we took the women who were sort of most disenfranchised, and I think what we've done is become very symbolic, because in a way they've been disenfranchised by their environment, by what happened to them. But as we see more and more, this is basically happening to most women around the world at some level. So in a way, it's sort of microcosm that symbolizes the larger world. And we created a program of 300 course hours with companies, with business schools, with mentoring. We did personal development to help them. And actually what we came to realize through that experience was that, one, entrepreneurship was transformational, because it is a posture and not just an objective, but it allows you to transform into the person that you want to be, and to learn skills that you will take no matter where you go, and develop that leadership. And out of that, we realized that, well, so many women need that. So many women need to become entrepreneurs of their own lives, and then to go forward and bring their projects to the world. So we extended actually our work to create a platform with Capgemini, which will allow all companies worldwide to engage their employees to help women entrepreneurs on their projects. So we're basically trying to mobilize the largest communities around the world to help women realize their dreams and break the gender gap, which is going to take 217 years if we don't work on it.
Yeah. You're from Mexico. What's your experience as the only man on this panel? Your experience in helping women to access to the same level as men, and in high-level jobs and digital jobs as well?
Well, we began creating educational centers for people to have digital inclusion. And we began by opening only 10 centers. And the network grew very rapidly. And we very quickly noticed that it was mostly women. There was the mothers who were taking their children, and out of those children, most of them were girls. So we began focusing on creating programs to foster the inclusion of women into not only digital inclusion, but also into entrepreneurship, into finding work. And some years ago, we conducted a study with the University of Pennsylvania, and we discovered that women that were completing the basic computing program had 4 times more opportunities of finding work. So this is a very important aspect, because as jobs become increasingly digital, if we don't include especially women, then they will be more marginalized in these basic jobs. Now, going from there to the more mid and high level jobs, that's also a risk that she was speaking about, in terms of all of these tele-automation of work and having home office. Yes, it provides for a certain series of opportunities, but at the same time it's also limiting, and it's also capping the type of jobs that they're going to be able to get. We work with a very marginalized population, so we're not so focused on the higher levels. But we do think that by stimulating especially girls, by placing them in programs that are more about coding, that will eventually stimulate them to go into STEM-related careers and jobs.
Could you give some examples of girls you helped and found jobs?
Well, we have a program called Makers Lab. And it's a program where we teach girls how to program to be able to use 3D printers and laser cutters. So they start doing prototypes. And sometimes the prototypes are very simple. There can be boxes and so on. But many of these girls and women have gone on to do their own businesses and do like customized skateboards and like all sorts of like casual things, but at the same time that provide them with an income, and at the same time are doing programming and more advanced skills.
Okay. Let's go to Emmanuel Quiles. Like I just said, you're one of the few all too rare female CEOs in this country of a huge company. Just a very simple question: how did you get there?
Yeah,
I'm sorry to ask you, because it's probably a question you would never ask a man, but...
No, no, but actually I think that the word CEO might not be used in the right way. I'm leading an affiliate of an American company based in France, so I'm the managing director of that company. And indeed, we are very few women in that position, very, very few. It's difficult to tell the story of what I've done. I think that you are making choices at different stages in your life, and that starts very early on. When you're around 15, I think there is a moment where you decide whether you're going to do in French, typically between math or literature. And it all depends most probably on what you have as a model. And my model was most probably my father, who was an engineer. So the choice was easy for me. But then, having said that, then I can immediately say, well, I have two sisters, and their decision was actually to go for journalist and teacher. So you have your own model, you decide to use them or not. But I think the level that you put and also the self-confidence that you develop is very important. So in France today, there are only 29% of the students who graduate who are women. We looked at the numbers, and it's really impressive because if we go on with the trend that we have currently in France, it will take us up to 2075 to get a parity, to get half women really graduating. So it's really fascinating to me. And also in the area where I am, we have lots of researchers. And in the pharma industry, we have many female actually who are researchers very much involved, higher than parity. It's almost 59%. So it's quite impressive, but it's very different in other areas where we are in automotive is 13% only. So I think I'm quite biased because in healthcare, we are many women who are there. Most probably it's also led by the fact that women are the ones who are making decisions in healthcare, so maybe it comes more naturally that we are more present in this area. Still, I think the big issue is for us to see how much we can grow in the organizations in general. I think it's all a matter of self-confidence, and self-confidence, you learn it through your environment, your family, but also at school. And that's also something very important, that we push women to get that self-confidence.
Let me make a remark about self-confidence. I noted that you immediately, when I said CEO, you started to apologizing that you were actually not a CEO. And I think that's something we encounter very often with women. I will give you an example. Here in France, there's a very good website. It's called expert.eu. And it is a site with women experts on any topic you can imagine, from rocket science to sociologies to I don't know, to bees, any topic you can mention. And actually, that's the site I use when I want to interview people, because I think there are too many men already in my reports or in reports on TV in general. So I go to this website. So these women are trained. It's a foundation here in France. They train these women. They give them media training, assertiveness, self-confidence, etc. And every single time when I call one of those women, they start by saying, I'm not sure if I'm the right person on this very topic, whereas they are really the absolute experts in France. And if I would call a man who is only half an expert, he would not even think. He would say, yes, okay, what time and where? It has been
demonstrated. It has been demonstrated through studies that it's all about the push, and also if people are more living in a competition culture, and also if they are overstating actually their confidence, it will help them to succeed in getting a promotion or succeeding in exams. That's really impressive. We don't know that, but that's why we need to push.
Yes. Now let's go to Tara. How about your self-confidence? You have a very long CV, a very impressive career in tech companies. You wrote, you published a lot about it. How did you get where you are now today?
To respond to the previous issue about how women experts think of themselves, I remember very recently I was asked to self-nominate myself to a prestigious institution's list of women experts on women in tech. I hesitated to nominate myself, for I fear I don't know everything about the topic yet. And I think that's very common among many women, to not only not want to push yourself forward, but believe that someone else should decide whether or not you are an expert in the topic of women in technology or any area of technology that you are participatory in. Yes, I'm Tara. I am incredibly thrilled to be here today. I fear I must argue with Susanna, for I'm from the northwest region of the United States, and Oregon Pinot Noir is in fact the greatest wine in the world. This goes to the heart of who and why the issue of women in technology affects so greatly so many of us. there's no magic department of expertise that decides when you're a developer and when you're not. And of all the things I think hurts the most when women ask me questions, it's the question, how do I know when I'm a developer? I've been writing Python for 5 years. Am I a developer yet? Can I put web developer on my resume if I've written WordPress plugins? The answer, of course, is you already are. You have been from the moment you decided to join this field. I'm an information security researcher, and cybersecurity is a notoriously difficult, even subfield of technology for women to break into. I didn't feel comfortable calling myself an information security researcher, a hacker, until someone else did it, someone I admired. If there's any piece of advice I can give for gentlemen in the room, for people who are in charge of women in companies, it's this. Make sure to tell women when you believe they have achieved extraordinary things. Just call them the title that they're trying to get to. You'll make an incredible difference in their lives.
Okay, thank you, Tara. Let's get to the second round of this question, this debate. What could companies do? You already answered it a little bit, Tara, to give these women self-confidence and to make sure that they access the top-level functions. Because I think well, it probably comes to the man in companies to play an important role in this transformation. Emmanuel, what could you advise companies who would like to get more women aboard?
I think they have to be really clear about the choices that they make. I think it's for the company actually to drive the change. That's the only possibility, because corporate have this responsibility to drive progress. To me, they have to make it clear that they want to develop programs for women. It might look odd to some women, even some of them resist it, but I think it's very important because we need to support them, working as a group, understanding where the biases are in the organization, and also get that self-confidence that they can achieve things as good as men can. Very important to do it. We do at J&J, we have programs that are running for 20 years now, so it's very important for women to recognize that they can be part of the group. They also have specific coaching times and development skills for people who are going up in the organization. And the other thing that is very, very important to my heart is also that we forbid any expression of sexist behavior. So, and that can be discussed immediately if it's seen. So that's also important because its bias is very important and impacts us, all of us.
Okay. Chiara, you want to say something?
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
So I think it's twofold. So one is empowering individuals and the other is changing culture. Because if you just empower individuals, it's the same thing you see in entrepreneurship as you see in companies, and the culture isn't changed, then those individuals will not succeed in that environment. So I think that's why the sexism thing is also very important. And we think through Led by Her, that's also something that we're trying to do, is change the awareness around women, around how people look at women. We try to work with companies as well in order so that they integrate those values within their companies. And I think that cross-fertilization leads to a lot of awareness raising, which is really, really important. And I think what we're saying to a lot of women today, and we don't realize it, is come work for this company. You're going to be the only woman on the team. You're going to be working double the time of a man, and you're going to be paid half the salary. And it's a great deal. Why don't you want it? You should even be grateful that we're offering it to you. And this is the environment that we want women to go and work in. And that's why we really, really have to change this, because this is, and I think part of what is really difficult about right now is that gender discrimination is, in our generation, in our times, is hidden. Before it was overt. Now it's all sexism. It's hidden, not getting promotions. It's getting half salary of a man. It's all this. So it's really, really hard to fight against. And that's why we need to empower every woman. And every woman needs to think that when she's asking for a raise, asking for everything, she's doing it for all women.
Okay, well, we have actually one question from the audience. That's what's the one thing that all women who want to succeed in tech should remember? But I just think you answered this question. They have to remember everything, don't they? Very tough job, actually. Susanna, you wanted to react as well.
Yes, I agree with all of has been said, but I think we need to address something very important. First of all, 60% of the graduation are women's. So companies are losing chances to keep the talent and to have more talent in their boards if they don't care about that. To fulfill this requirement, it's very important to have diverse environment in the working area. So talking about diversity, we are not talking about only males and females. We are talking about race diversity. We are talking about disabled people. In that environment, women could feel more safe, and the companies are building better environment to have them the chances to develop. And another thing we need to fulfill is the rule of three. When you have three women in between the teams, there is a sort of empowerment itself. If you have only one woman, or in the board, or in the field working, they don't feel secure enough to show their talent or to show their strength. So you need at least three women to have more empowerment to them. And to finish the idea for the companies, it's not only the companies. We need to address how we are educating, because we need to close all the stereotypes in the education to encourage girls to be more involved in STEM careers, and also to let them know they are absolutely capable to reach the best places, but they are going to reach the best places if they feel safe. Because one of the most important lack of the opportunity for women is harassment and sexual abuse in their workplaces. And that we need to address and to be aware about that.
Can I?
Yes, sure, Emmanuel.
That's something. I think something important is also the role model that I discussed before. It's very difficult in tech to have role model for women. I attended several meetings recently. I can tell you out of 20 names and pictures we were presenting during a 1-hour presentation, there were only 3 women. And that goes in your mind. Whatever you do, you feel you're not part, or you cannot do as good as men. That's something really important. Same for panels. I attended a panel last week, and that was all about digital in the pharma industry, working with startups. I'm not joking, it was 6 men talking, no women. And I asked a question, I said, are all women busy today, really working, not attending this panel? And they said, well, we knew you would ask the question, but I tell you there is no one around, no woman. And I know it's not true. It's just the fact that we continue to say, well, it's normal, and I see it in many male presentation and working groups, that it's just normal. So nobody's pushing, trying to find the woman, because then it's important for women to find the head that they can project themselves in the future. And that's our job in corporations.
Okay, I'll have very short, and then we'll get to the audience. Because
well, I just wanted to agree with that, because I think it's a question of the mythology behind all of these careers. And I think we need to restructure the narratives of the hero, of the successful businessman, and have more icons of how females can also achieve, become an astronaut, or be an engineer, or be a scientist. And we do that in our programs by adding girls as part of these narratives.
Okay, Tara, just a short, yeah.
Women leave or are pushed out of tech careers at twice the rate that men are at every major point in their career. The way to change this is not just to encourage more girls to join and to be part of STEM careers, but to retain women by shining a light on salary inequality. If you want to hire more women in technology, just do it. If you want to pay them the same as men in technology, shine a light on salary differences, make them public, and then make it right.
Here, here. Béatrice, vous avez quelque chose à rajouter pour terminer?
Yes, well, indeed, everything that was said I agree with, and we need to give more visibility to women in positions of responsibility so that they become models. Those also highlight the decision-making biases of men who tend to go for people who look like them, so it's not exactly profiles like ours. But there may be also the flip side to that. Maybe we should give a different position to parenthood. If we give more position to fathers. And if men are not just active business people, but also fathers, that will give a different place to parenthood at the European level. There's the discussion on the directive to give longer paternal leave and also give equal lengths to maternal and paternal leave. That would be a step in the right direction. It would no longer be seen as a problem to recruit a woman because, oh, they're going to get pregnant and I need to organize. And regardless of whether you're a man or a woman, you would get entitled to the same leave, and that would change mindsets also. There's not just the professional sphere, but also the private sphere that matters. It's a really topical subject.
Any questions from the lady in the middle there? Yes, you. Is there a microphone somewhere? No, here. Sorry, on the fourth. Yeah, there is.
Hi, thank you all for a fantastic panel. Claudia Beccarone from Eutelsat, a technology satellite company where also women only represent 30%. So everything you said resonates very strongly. My question is concerning unconscious gender bias. Which was touched upon a little bit, and since the majority of companies, governments, institutions are still governed by men, I think that there's an urgency to really work on this in the next generation of leaders, and that this should be part of the curriculum in business schools and in all sorts of curriculum. And I'd like to know what you think about that.
Emmanuel.
Yeah, I take the microphone immediately because this is something we have implemented in our company. There is a mandatory training on unconscious bias. We think it's really important. It's happening everywhere, even in the healthcare where there are many more women, because we are also responsible for it. So we should try to implement it as much as we can. And I in mind, again, my own story. I told you I have a family which is diverse, but I have one of my daughter who actually wants to be an astronaut or working in this area. And when I tell people that she's studying mechanics in the university, you can see in the eyes of French people, their reaction is usually it stops completely immediately the discussion because they don't know what to say. It looks weird to them having a girl doing mechanics. And I think it's very interesting. We need to reflect on that we have so many habits that are really bad and it comes all from us. So that's why I'm saying it's cooperation, also work this responsibility because many of us are working currently.
Okay, so shoot for the stars. One more last question because we're really short of time. The lady there on the third row. Yes, is there a microphone? On the third row, yeah. Thank you.
Hi, I tweeted that in Europe we don't have, I'm Cheryl Miller, the founder of the Digital Leadership Institute, and I'm proud to say I just won a Global Mobile Award for my work promoting women in tech. And I'm from Belgium. Hello, Stefan.
Hello.
In Europe, since 2005, we do not have one more female tech expert in the marketplace. These are it's Eurostat data, okay? Not one more in a market that is booming, of course.
So you mean we have the same amount of women in tech as
in 2005, and actually in the last 2 years, 2016, 2017, the numbers are actually declining.
Percentage or absolute?
Absolute numbers.
Okay.
So both.
Yes.
Percentage-wise and in absolute numbers. So what do we do? Because, of course, the best indicator for the future is the past. And this means there is a very significant systemic problem in a society that is becoming more and more digitized. We don't have women who can design and build and lead without this kind of knowledge, in my opinion. So what is it that we do?
Okay, well, that's the last question. It's very nice to talk to each other, but indeed, what can we do? Tara.
I'm a poker player. And it's very important to network with your executives, right? Once I was thoughtlessly disincluded from the senior level poker game. They never thought that I'd want to join, even though, well, let's hope that they didn't want to have me join because they'd forgotten about me and not because they were scared of me at the table. I was very upset about it. I had lost a chance because they had started playing this game in a men-only space, and I wasn't even able to go up and knock on the door and invite myself in. My sponsor, my mentor, found me upset and proceeded to make changes in the company the next day. This is the thing that we do to change it. That, gentlemen, when you have the opportunity to help women get into spaces that they have not been permitted in before, help them get in. Stand in front of them and the bias that is keeping them out of those rooms, out of the decisions that are being made, and away from the executives that can help their careers. This is that unconscious bias, and this is how men can help.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd like to conclude with Monica Keisner. She's the head of Social Policy Division. Monica.
Yes, thank you very much for an absolutely fascinating discussion. At the OECD, we have a gender initiative which we've been running for almost 10 years now, and it is really striking how we keep coming back to the same issue of self-confidence. This is, I mean, what's wrong with us? How can it be that we're still stuck being convinced that we're not good enough? And even when we're called experts, and what I take away from your discussion is titles matter. Let's think about that. I think that's really important. Another point, which we haven't made the connection well enough yet, I think, is sexual harassment, sexist behavior at the workplace, and the impact it has on self-confidence. That's another really important point which we need to take away. New point for me also was rule of three. I hadn't heard about this. This is interesting, and I think we have to think more about how to consult wherever we go to make sure we have at least 3 women in teams. The role models, yes, and women on panels. I'm very happy to report that at the OECD, we're not allowed to participate in panels where there's where our men cannot go to panels where they're all men. And they have to say no, even if it's really interesting and really important. So we're quite proud of that. We've been cited as a good example in international organizations. And I think social media, talking about tech, helps a lot because it looks really ugly if you have all these men sitting there and there's no woman around, or only a woman moderator. So in this sense, we have another great example here today. Finally, 2 last points for us at the OECD. I think we have to think about retention. I heard the same number again. Yesterday I heard it, and I heard it again today. Women pushed out of tech companies twice the rate as men. And that is scary. They come in with a tech career, and they end up somewhere else twice as often as men. Doesn't mean necessarily they're doing badly. They might be doing well, but still it's not what they started out to be, and it's not what they studied to be. So important point for us to research better. And then the last point, very important to us, and thank you for making that from the trade union side, parental leave. Let's include men in that conversation. And for us, it has become a major policy lever. We will never get to inequality in paid work if we don't address inequality in unpaid work. And that's another very important policy message which we need to put out there for everybody. Thank you very much for this inspiring discussion.
Thank you very much. And to all the men in the room, please hire all these women, because we would be fools to ignore 51% of the world's brains. Thank you very much.